Welcome to Vanishing Gates. I am Jay, and these are
The unpleasant smelling Jack.
And the Katy Cat.
the Katy Cat now.
He sprayed me with Axe
The Katy Cat.
a lot.
Yeah, Jack got doused with Axe
Yeah,
body spray
yeah.
because I didn't have any bear spray.
I don't even smell
Because
bad.
if I'm
What
going to be in the
fuck?
woods, I'd prefer a bear over Jack.
I'm pretty sure you could take Axe into the woods, and if you sprayed that on a bear instead of bear spray, it'd probably be like, you know what? Never mind. I don't even need to
If
be
you
here.
go into the woods and you spray a bear with Axe body spray, he's probably going to like sleep with you and not call you back.
No.
He's going to drink energy
He has
drinks.
more self-respect
He's
than
gonna
that.
vape with
as
his
soon as it
pinky
smells
finger
the
up.
Axe spray, it's gonna be like, you know what? You're not even worth my time.
He's gonna bug you for hair products.
Your name's
'cause he can't
probably
say hair
Chet,
gel.
and you probably wear your hat backwards,
Yeah.
and you think you're pretty cool because
Anyway,
you've got
so-
that tribal tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, don't spray bears with Axe body spray. Something cool kind of happened. Katie Cat and I were out at a restaurant locally having dinner, and a fellow walked up and approached, and he started talking about how he was fanboying, to which I was very confused.
Yeah.
So I started looking around for whoever was at the restaurant that could be someone I would recognize.
We both did, yeah.
And we're like, well, who's here? Like thinking, okay, is there a celebrity I don't know about? And then I realized he was talking to us. He watches the show. So, hey, buddy, we got a selfie with you. It's going to go up on the Facebook page here by the end of the night after this
Yeah.
is done recording.
But with his permission.
Oh, I told him it was going to go up there.
Yeah,
So it'll
he
be
was
on.
fine with
By the way, if you guys don't follow our Facebook page, check it out, Vanishing Gates. And also, if you haven't already, like, follow, subscribe, and share this with people. And we are always looking for stories and ideas for episodes. But today, we're going to go back to the woods. Speaking of bears, lions and
bears.
tigers and bears. Oh my.
Oh my.
Maybe not tigers, but definitely lions and bears. Because we're talking about something.
Wait a minute. Did you say lions and bears?
Yeah, mountain lions.
All right, I'll count it.
That's why I did it. So the U.S. is 3.7 million miles, something like that. 3,500,032, 316 square miles of it is land. The rest of it's water. Something like 80% of the country is uninhabited, which is a huge amount of land that's not inhabited. Now
It
that-
will literally, like, it's literally shocking the little footprint we have on this land.
Yeah, and well, that's also you got to think though. That's including blocks of houses that are just empty, like 90% of Detroit. That's probably not accurate, but I mean, you know,
88.3% of Detroit is
yeah,
living
so
in one
there's
house.
like yeah, exactly. So places like that, or you got to think also in our bigger cities where most of our people live, they live in one building. Well, you know, it's like there's a place in Alaska, the whole town is in one building.
Yeah, that's a
So,
cool town too.
And Alaska is hugely unpopulated. But there are 429 national park sites in the U.S. and 61 parks in the U.S. Out of this, 61 national parks in the U.S. So there's park sites and there's parks. The parks are the protected parks, Yosemite, things like that.
like large parks.
Yeah, and other ones are National Park Service areas. So, you know, little landmarks, things like that. I think the Pioneer chimneys that are federal Pioneer chimneys and there's state Pioneer chimneys.
We have one near us, don't we?
We have multiple Pioneer chimneys in this area. Multiple. One in Sequoia Park. There's there's another one. There's like 5 or 6 that I can think of. California's 9 parks. The 9 in California alone are more than 6.3 million acres by themselves. That's not including the rest of the country. 6.3 million acres. With a total nationwide being something like 85 million acres of land that is not inhabited. That's just national park land that's not inhabited. Where people go and visit and see things and enjoy the sights.
These are things that bother the shit out of me.
Why we have all this uninhabited land?
Well,
Too many trees. We need to cut them down.
It's not that. It's you got a homeless problem. Allow them to go out and like build a cabin or something.
I don't disagree. Like we used to do a lot of homesteading in America. We don't
I
anymore.
think there's only one state I think that legally has homesteading. I think
Alaska
it's
has
I
homesteading.
thought
There's
Indiana has
there's
too,
multiple
right?
states. There are some states, but
I thought it was Indiana also
you
has
have to be
homesteading.
careful about where you're going with it. But yeah, we're not getting into homesteading. It's a whole other
Yeah.
topic. It has nothing to do with the paranormal. I'll explain.
Yeah.
But now that said, you got to think of how many homesteaders went missing while we were developing this country. So, but that is a lot of land, 85 million acres. It's a hell of a lot of land to go missing in. And as it happens, a lot of people do every single year. Something like 1,000 in the last 100 years have gone missing, give or take. Some said it was like 300 people a year, which seems a little high. Some people it's like more like 100 a year. So those numbers are just, inaccurate. There's multiple sources that I looked at, and all of them had different freaking information, including the National Park Service website did not have the right information, according to everybody else, because that's what this talk is going to be about.
Well, let's be honest. Like, if you literally had to have like tourist destinations, because a lot of these are tourist destinations, they make money off of it. You know, there are some that makes money off of it, like their towns and stuff in the area that they kind of require you to show up. And if you were to say, hey, lots of people fucking die here every year, people are going to suddenly be like, I might just go to Hawaii.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. That said, though, we do have national parks that are not in the contingent United States. We have some in the Bahamas. We have some in, you know, so it's not just here. It's like, and Alaska's not contiguous, Hawaii's not contiguous, but you know, this is all of the United States properties in general, not just, you know, landlocked United States.
Yeah, it's interesting. People don't realize like how many other.
Do you know what the highest ranked park is for the most deadliest ranked park?
Yosemite.
Well,
No.
the Devil's Playground behind our
No, that's
our
not
mall.
a national park.
I thought that was national land.
No, it's private land.
That's private land.
That's private land. It always has been.
Oh.
No.
Well, no wonder it's
Grand
not there. It
Canyon.
would count.
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon, that makes sense.
Grand
yeah.
Canyon is ranked the deadliest with the most missing persons reports and deaths and forever sleeps. It is a giant thing that you can jump off of. So
But
don't do that.
Is it as
mind
bad
you.
as was it?
It is the
Kohigahara?
worst. It's the worst. Huh?
Is it Kohigahara or
Kohigahara. Well, they don't have any numbers on that directly.
They don't keep.
They don't track that number there.
That's
That's
right,
in
they don't track
Japan.
them
This is
there.
America. We're not talking about Logan Pauling this or Jake Paul, whichever one did that.
Well, I was just saying, is it similar? I was wondering if it was similar numbers to.
So, but how many
Ichigahara.
people are
I think it's
missing?
Ichigahara.
Here's the thing: how many people are missing? What happened to them? How many of them are unsolved? And what do these missing people have in common? This is a problem. One thing these missing people, all these missing cases have in common is we don't freaking know how many of them there really are. We just don't, and we have a ton of unsolved. I want to say the Park Services says there's like 24 that are unsolved. I think that was in one park or something like that. But they're saying there's only 24 unsolved. I find that to be very difficult to believe because if you don't know someone's missing, you don't know.
I'm gonna be
that
honest.
They're missing.
The greatest mystery to me is how exactly a cigar burns and which way you should rotate upwards, because I could never get it to burn evenly.
You want to roll your cigar. You always want to roll your cigar when you smoke it, kids.
It's
Kids
not
don't
working.
smoke. YouTube don't.
That was hella random.
Disclaimer, YouTube. So anyway, enter David Polides, a former law enforcement officer that turned into an investigator. He got into some legal trouble as a clerk for doing something he shouldn't have been doing. I don't know exactly the details. I don't think that had to do with him leaving law enforcement, but he was working in a law position of some fashion when it happened, and he got in trouble for it.
He was a detective.
He was a detective. He was also a SWAT team member. And I've heard the guy's interviews. He sounds like a really legitimate, nice guy. Like, he cares, which does go a long way these days, especially when you're talking about missing people, missing persons. But after leaving law enforcement, you know, in this time, again, he was a detective in law enforcement. Polides went on to write and self-publish 2 Bigfoot-related books. Now, his books are self-published. He's written multiple books. I think there's like 10 or 11 on the Missing 411 series that we're going to talk about here. But during the time he was doing research at one of the national parks, I believe for one of his Bigfoot books, he was approached by an off-duty park ranger, he says. Now, he also founded the North American Bigfoot Search, which he runs, I think, still to this day, on top of all this other stuff. So he's really into Bigfoot, which is going to come to play here at some point, at least with David Polides and his thoughts.
Now, I have a kind of an idea, but I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe I should, if I remember, try and hold it off till the end of the episode, then to give my, like, what I think.
Yeah, let's read some case files, talk about some
first.
cases
Okay.
first, and go from there. Because right now, we're just going to start scratching the surface of this, because this could be, I mean, there are entire YouTube channels that are just this conversation.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's multiple
There are
YouTube
so
channels that are just this.
many stories behind this, and they each, the way he did it was absolutely nuts. Like, I can't remember exactly, but it was like, he said he had certain restrictions, like certain things that he required when he was writing his book, that they had to match, like, certain things. And,
Well, he went through a rigmarole, but let's go into the beginning anyway. So
Okay.
Polides he was known to be an investigator already, and so his park ranger apparently sought him out and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about these cases that aren't meshing up. Things just aren't fitting within the park services." This is a ranger telling him this. The Rangers, the Parks Division does have an investigatory unit or units. They do investigations internally. I don't know anything about it aside from that. I've just heard it referenced, so I know it exists. But like I said, the ranger apparently knew Paulides as an investigator when he looked for him. So Paulides claims to have uncovered some kind of cover-up type thing with the Park Service, especially that park first. And from there, his search for information to other parks across the country kind of started unraveling this with the whole Park Service nationally, that they are hiding things or they are not making it easy to track these missing cases. They're not, not being forthright with people about what's going on. And that was started as self-published works of the Missing 411 books.
A lot of this, I think, this doesn't do it with my Bigfoot theory, but this is a different thing. Like my theory on why a lot of these numbers are skewed is that when it comes down to it, they kind of have an incentive in it. When you think about it, when a murder happens, they can't give out a lot of information, and so what they want is someone to screw up and say something, because a lot of serial killers, they don't do it because they just suddenly snap one day. It's not just that they want to be caught, they want to be seen. Mm-hmm. And so the reason they don't talk about a lot of these things is because they want the serial killer to realize that they're not talking about it, and they want them to come forward and say, hey,
well, you're making a huge jump to serial killer just out of nowhere.
Well,
we haven't
not
talked
just
about
serial
any
killers.
cases yet.
I don't mean
in
general just serial killer. I mean like any kind of killer.
Like they're just trying to cover up to...
It's just like any kind of a murder case. They're holding a lot of the stuff back.
But a lot of these cases, that doesn't make any sense that there would be a killer at all involved, is the point. A lot of these people just disappeared in thin air while they're around people. The Park Service Rangers have weird stories. Like, remember
people
we did
walk down our streets and disappear.
Okay, but you remember when we were... I know, but that's the point. But that's different. There's people around when that happens here that would take them.
Well,
what I'm saying... in the woods... taking someone from the woods and making them disappear is not as easy as you think.
But if you're in the woods, other people are probably in the woods too.
I understand that as a guy who spends a lot of time out in the woods alone.
And if you dig in the right bush, you could put someone in it.
I'm well aware. I have spots that if I wanted to disappear locally, I could just disappear and no one would ever see me again.
As a disclaimer,
if I wanted to hide.
As a disclaimer, we never want to hide anywhere.
I don't need to hide. I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Banshee Gates finds people. We don't hide.
We find people? That's
I don't know. I don't know that.
As we get doxxed tomorrow. Please don't do that.
Please don't.
There's no point in swatting me.
But
I have friends with all the cops in the area.
I think if these people were getting killed by like a killer.
Well, we're saying killed though. These guys disappeared. We don't know if they're dead.
Well, yeah, that's true.
There are some cases where they died.
But there would be more like evidence of that.
Yeah, but we're talking about vanishing without a trace versus vanishing with evidence of some foul
or
play.
vanishing with the gates.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but this is why I didn't want to jump to serial killer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you don't know they're missing, then how do you know they're gone? Like, you don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the preponderance of evidence. They can't just give the evidence out to people. They need you to.
Well, if they know someone's been reported missing in a state park, yes, they can give you that. They have that logged down. They have to have that logged down. The problem is they were telling Paulides, well, we have that, but you have to purchase it. They were making him buy this information, and it was incredibly expensive. They said the database is available, but it's like $10,000 for the first 1,000 names or 100 names of. Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. Like, if you look at like cases like Trini Gibson, is a gal that was on a high school trip at Smoky Mountain, I want to say Smoky Mountains National Park, with her whole high school group or whatever. There's like 30 or so people around. This is on October 8th, 1978. She vanished without a trace. Now, you can disappear in the Smoky Mountain areas, relatively easily. I think I have another case noted. After a brief intermission, Trini Lynn Gibson vanished while on a high school trip onto the Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee on October 18th, 1976. There were 30 or so people around, but she vanished without a trace. That is the point I was getting to before we had interrupted, and we had to edit to this point. Anyway, so it's weird because a couple days before this, now there are a lot of things that could be happening here with Trini Gibson. You can actually find her case files by Googling it, and I think I might still have it. I don't have it up still. Shoot, I did have it up, but you can find the actual report that's written down and listed and with the time frame and everything, all the searching and everything that was done. And she was just gone. They've never found any trace of her whatsoever. And she had no time to just vanish. And there is a thought that somebody could have taken her, but where they were at, it would have had to be in front of a ton of people, a ton of witnesses. And it would happen to be really, really fast that it happened. The argument is that someone was stalking her because a few nights prior, someone broke into her house and her dad actually shot the person, and they got away. I think is the story, but they don't believe that's linked to this case because it doesn't make any sense. But she just disappeared in front of a group of people, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about that is, so here's something. I don't know if you get into this, but people don't realize how fucking good hounds are. Dogs are so good at finding you. You cannot escape a hound when it catches your scent. Once it catches your scent, it will find you. They are trained for this. This is not like a game. So you're talking 1976. So you're talking before like.
And they did have dogs out looking for her. They have a whole thing. You can go over the list of what they sent out for the search parties.
Yeah.
And they searched for a long time.
If you get and they would have brought out their best possible bloodhounds. Like this is the thing that people don't realize.
And
about
that's in Tennessee.
Yeah.
They have dogs in Tennessee.
Tennessee is known for it.
It's hunting
Well,
land.
and they have dogs specifically, like
Bloodhounds.
cadaver
Yeah,
dogs,
well, and even
you know.
then, like a bloodhound will find something because you don't need a cadaver dog that soon in the disappearance.
A properly trained dog, they will track your ass for I think like 30, 40 miles. You can't get away from your scent.
Further than that, if you've gotten that far away, then they're not going to track you.
Their smell
They
is
can smell that far.
not that
Well,
far,
the
but
smell
it's the track that lingers behind you. They can smell it for days after.
Yeah, well, depending on weather, depending on climate, things like that.
It's
There are
raining,
raining.
some
It's
small
going to
things
be.
for
If you
Yeah.
cross
Yeah.
down creeks and stuff, they're not going to have as easy a time. They can still look, but if you hit a creek bed or a river, it's not as likely to be found.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Or if you carry pepper spray behind you and don't want to be followed, and you spray the trail behind you. Don't do that if you're being chased by law enforcement. Just turn yourself in, you bad person, you.
Yeah,
You just gave everybody
fun fact:
an idea.
if you think that's a good idea to somehow try to get away from bloodhound,
It's
you
not a
are
good idea.
assaulting an animal, and you are
No, you don't
permanently
spray the
damaging.
dog. You spray the trail.
No, I'm
behind
saying
you.
because when they sniff
They
that pepper
put
spray,
off
you
the
can
smell.
damage the animal.
No,
You get hurt the
no,
animal.
If you're far enough away, if it was fresh, yeah, it would just throw the scent off. It doesn't hurt them.
But
Anyway, it's not relevant to
in
this
either
conversation.
direction,
Yeah.
the point is these things are really, really good. Like those bloodhounds are extremely
Also,
good.
Jay, why do you know that? Don't ask. So then, another case, the Van Alst family was visiting the Ozark St. Francis National Forest in 1946. Their 8-year-old daughter, Catherine, was playing with her siblings in the woods near their campsite. The brothers looked away for a moment, literally, like they looked away for a moment, and then she was just gone.
Wow.
People were looking for her. Immediately, people were looking for her. Within seconds of her brother saying she was gone, people were looking for this girl. Canvassing the area that she was at. It was a huge deal. It was all over the news. People were looking every mile of this forest. It was an exhaustive search. 6 days after her disappearance, volunteers happened to be wandering by a cave 30 freaking miles from where Catherine went missing. Guys, this is an 8-year-old girl. 30 miles from when she went missing. She crawled out and casually waved and says, "Here I am." She had very little memory of the last 6 days. She mentioned that she ate berries and drank water from the cave. She made strange remarks about sleeping in warm grass and finding herself in the cave. So she said she fell asleep in warm grass and woke up in the cave. She always seemed strangely calm about the whole ordeal, like it didn't faze her. But again, she was 8. 8-year-olds can handle things. Clearly, she wasn't traumatized by it. Search and rescue teams were very confused by this. I mean, they had searched that same exact area with equipment and with dogs twice. I know it's 1946, but guess what? The dogs haven't changed. Catherine, why hadn't she been counted on the previous sweeps? They don't know. As strange as the circumstances are, they did get a very rare happy ending in this case because it doesn't happen often. No matter what massage parlor you go to. It's
You can try all
they
you
got
like.
the right one that
I
time.
knew you were going to say something.
I had to. There was just low-hanging fruit. But that's
Right
one of
there.
those cases. There's cases like that where kids will disappear and they'll say they were grabbed by something. And they usually describe the exact same thing.
Yeah.
A big fluffy thing that carried them. There's one kid, there was a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old that could barely, some kid who was just old enough to talk anyway. Maybe not 2 or 3, old enough to have sentences. And he was found like another 2 mountain ridges away from where he was. It would have taken days
Was that
for
the
a little
redheaded
kid to get
kid?
there. I think so. He was
September.
That was creepy.
yeah,
And like they found him and he was all like dirty and like
Mhm.
just
naked,
he was
dirty.
scared.
and-
He was like wasn't talking.
And when he finally did, he said this big hairy guy helped him or something.
Yeah, something like
grabbed him
and
and
he was
ran
gone
off with
for
him.
a while.
He was gone for a while, and they found him 2 mountain peaks away, many miles away.
I
Would have taken him days and days to get there.
Seeing that, yeah.
So there's always some weird shit like that. And then you have another one in the Great Smoky Mountains. So this is Dennis Martin, I believe, the story of him. So Great Smoky Mountains is probably best known as a drive-through park. It's a place where most people stick to the roads, viewpoints, and short nature trails starting within a few feet from the parking spots. There are remote sections of the park in the forest that's dense, with a thick understory of rhododendron that covers the trail, so it's hard to find. But that's the area that the Martin family was camping with their 6-year-old son, Dennis, in 1969. Let's see. Over Father's Day weekend, the Martins and 2 other families camped out in the Spence Field. It's a backcountry meadow, roughly 5 miles from the nearest road. Dennis and his older brother and a few of the other boys in the area wanted to play a prank on their parents by hiding in the bushes and jumping out to scare them. Always a brilliant idea in the woods is to try to hide. Don't do this, kids, especially in a national park. Dennis's father saw his son step off the trail into his stepson. His son, help me, stepson, I'm stuck in the bushes. No, he saw his son step off the trail and into the bushes, and that was the last time anyone saw him. He saw his kid walk into the bushes, and then he vanished. Because when the other kids went to jump out of the bushes, just a few minutes later, Dennis was gone. Family searched for him for 4 hours before hiking to the nearest ranger station to alert authorities. There was a huge search that commenced. More than 1,000 people were involved, and no sign of that kid was ever found. To this day, the search remains the largest ever deployed in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So it even influenced the way that national parks undertake the searches they do now. It's widely accepted that the sheer volume of inexperienced people looking for Dennis probably obscured any clues. So they think mostly that people's inability to know what they were doing probably cost that kid finding that kid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now when a person goes missing in a park, a few experienced trackers are deployed first, and usually a few hours or days later, a large search party goes out afterwards.
Yeah.
Remember when those 2 girls went missing recently? They'd wandered off. They found them a mile away from their house, just off the side of the road, and they were staying under some trees to drink the sap from the plants. Because their Girl Scout leader told them to do that because they got lost. 2 little girls here just down there, like Redway, I think.
Drink the sap.
Drink the water,
Yeah.
the dew, not the sap. Sorry,
Oh,
dew.
the
You don't
water.
drink
Wow.
sap off.
I was like, what?
What kind of? If you,
The dew off the
guys,
tree,
if the
yeah.
leaves are sappy, don't touch it. It'll make you itch.
Just look for a cactus.
So the
You drink water off
FBI,
cactus.
the FBI never suspected foul play of Dennis Martin. Although a number of false hopes came in, they never got any evidence of it, anything found. Now, a witness reported hearing a child scream and seeing a strange man drive away in a white Chevy, but the incident was unrelated. It was too far from the last place Dennis was seen. In the 80s, a hiker looking to harvest ginseng illegally inside the park reported finding the skeleton of a child roughly 10 miles from Spence Field, but they found nothing when rangers went to search the area. So maybe the rangers are just incompetent.
Maybe the Rangers are shitty.
Now, speaking of park rangers, we did have a park ranger locally not too long ago. He's no longer a park ranger because he was found asleep at the wheel of his truck, which was parked on the side of the road, while the back of the truck was full of beer cans and he had an open steel reserve in between his legs
So
as
he
he was
was
passed out sauced.
Passed out, yeah.
Ah,
Not asleep.
if those are the
passed
guys
out.
looking for your missing child, you're never going to get closure.
No, I mean, I think like it's a lot of these disappearances are just they're so fucking they're crazy because you wouldn't expect like something like that. Like they said like that truck was miles away. They saw the screaming kid with a Chevy, and I'm sitting like that girl was 30 miles where she was supposed to be from, and you didn't investigate or anything. You didn't think, wow, what the hell? Let's look into that.
So this is a more recent one. This is only from 2021. Joel Thomason. Joel planned a solo hike from Hetch Hetchy on September 6th on the 2021 to fish in Lake Elsinore area. This is in California, obviously, guys. This is going to be Yosemite. And return September 9th. But he might have decided to stay longer and extend his trip to Cherry Lake or northeast as far as the Grand Canyon or the Tuolumne River. Tuolumne. I can never say that. Is it Tuolumne?
Ptolemy.
Tulum? I think it's Tulum.
It's Tuolumne.
Ptolemy.
Ptolemy.
I'm from California. You'd think I'd be able to say this.
I've never even heard of it.
It's Ptolemy.
Is it
I'm
Ptolemy?
I'm from California. I've never even heard of it.
Really? I think it's Ptolemy.
I'm pretty sure it's Ptolemy.
Joel was likely carrying the Kayak. The kayak. The kayaks are invading
The river has confused your brain.
The kayak.
It's
Carrying
like,
the kayak packed in a large pouch attached to the exterior of his backpack. His family believes Joel had the following equipment: floppy boonie hat, dark blue green hammock, large yellow tannish Kelty back, U.S. Army Steel Cup dated to 1918, random Camelback type, red-black day pack, black and yellow collapsible sink, bright red inflatable kayak, small collapsible stove and backpack, kayak paddle, Petzl Zipka headlamp, yellow bear can, Garmin Tactics Delta Solar GPS watch, bright green mummy sleeping bag, fishing pole, fishing gear. If you find one of these items, please leave it in place and locate the nearest whatever and talk to email yosemite.search.rescue@gmail.com.
Oh, they're saying if you go there.
If you find
it.
any of the evidence of
Because
this,
they're still
he's still
looking for
missing.
his ass.
Now that's all the details it gives, but
This
again,
was in 2021.
yeah, this just happened a few years ago in a national park.
now here's the thing. The interesting thing about like when adults disappear, there's a strange. I think there's a more strange occurrence that happens when like the adults disappear that doesn't with children. Oftentimes, when adults that know what they're doing, like these guys are supposed to be, they're aware of their surroundings. There's an interesting. I've noticed there's an interesting that happens with like the trained guys. They get seen again.
Well, yeah.
A lot of them wind up they disappear, and then somewhere off in the distance, like miles away, somewhere they're not supposed to be, all of a sudden someone's like, we see him, we saw this person that fits that description, but they didn't have anything with them. They were just in clothes, no gear, no kit, and they just looked lost. And then we turned around and they were gone. Like that happens with a lot of like the adults for some reason. They just pop up in a different location. Someone sees them, and then they oftentimes don't have their equipment. They look lost, and then they disappear again. And those people have no fucking clue where they went. And oftentimes, but the thing about that is these people aren't exactly looking for a missing person. So of course they're not going to follow the person and be like, hey, are you such and such? They're going to be like, hey, that was weird. And then oftentimes they get back and like they see a post or something like, that was the guy we saw out there, or that was the woman we saw out there, and then they tell somebody, and that's actually how it happens. But it's just it's interesting to me that a lot of these adults, they reappear for a minute, and then they oftentimes come up after that. They're found either deceased somewhere in a different location, but they get seen like in random locations.
Well, sometimes, not always. But this is obviously a guy that's just going out to. He obviously has been out, knows what he's doing,
Yeah,
or he wouldn't have all his gear.
Crap.
And that's a lot of gear. I mean, that's a heavy ruck.
And
that's more than what I carry when I go out.
This is a guy that does this all the time.
Yeah, this is a guy that is like having fun and getting ready to come back home at some point.
We have in our backyard, we have a place where I think a couple missing 411s have been recorded out in Mount Shasta. I can't remember what the lake out there is.
That's a really far away backyard. We have much more close ones than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But-
sure we do.
I mean,
There's a lot of bodies in the hills around here. What are you talking
the
about?
interesting
man?
thing is, the interesting thing about that actually is when you look at our missing people,
most of them
where
were
we're
involved in the
from.
grow industry. See, yeah, and that's the hard part about where we are. There's a lot of missing gals, especially, and they're trimmigrants. These are gals that went out to go trim marijuana to make money and disappeared. It's pretty obvious what happened to these people. Like, there's no question that really anyone that actually knows the area knows what really happened.
When you come to these areas, it's interesting. When you come to Humboldt County, you'll go to like our road stops or something like that. As soon as you're in our county, because you'll start seeing like the boards that show like your maps and stuff like that, and then there's just an entire massive board of just posters, and they're overlapping each other.
And they're
'cause
all
there's so
like
many.
last known headed to Redway or Garberville.
Yeah, it's always like the same thing.
It's almost always to grow country.
There's a huge wall at Walmart.
Yeah.
Like missing kids.
But that's where all
and
over the
people
country, though.
That's
I guess
that's
that's
one
every
thing.
Walmart probably.
Yeah,
But when you go
I
out
noticed
hiking
that
and
the
stuff
other
like
day. I was
that,
like,
they
whoa.
put up those. They put them up like when
Yeah.
they went missing in a certain area. They were saw last. They put them there. But all over our like road stops and stuff, you'll see like missing
stops.
person signs.
Yeah,
rest
and the
stops.
bars. And
Yeah.
stuff,
We
you
actually,
see 'em.
because of our missing people, we have a higher. Was it because after 24 hours you're considered, or 48 you're considered deceased?
No, it's
Really?
not
Or
that.
something like that. We have actually, because of missing people in our county, we actually have a higher body count per capita than Oakland
Yeah,
and
it's,
San Francisco.
What's it called? My brain's
remember
gonna
what
get
term
there
either.
eventually. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, it makes us, because of missing people, we actually, in our small backwoods location where We're literally what is it? We're like 2 to 3 hours from any of the nearest major cities, and that's it, people don't realize like to get to any major city, it's like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually call it dead by
a week or something.
listed it. No, it's there's a different means not being around. Just because you're not around, they just assume you're dead.
Yeah, it's the assumption after a period of time.
I don't know
think
why
you just,
my
you're
brain
gone.
isn't coming up with Jesus, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. It's going to irritate the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's after a while you're considered deceased because they can't find you. There's no information about you. No one's seen you.
Yeah,
they just rule you as
the assumption
diseased.
is that you're dead. Yeah, and so that happens. I mean, obviously, some of these people, if it's a 100-year-old case, it's probably dead.
Yeah, you're.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure
well,
you are.
yeah.
In absentia. Thank you, brain. I got there. It's
No,
it's
they
dead,
could be
but it's dead in
100.
absentia. Death in absentia.
The person could be 100.
What, they're 102?
It's living in the woods.
Living in
Just
the woods.
chilling. They found the fountain of youth.
Well, okay, so there's also stories you hear. The problem too, you hear all these stories about the woods and what could be going on. So David Paulides heads towards the Bigfoot thing quite a bit, and sometimes aliens. A lot of people head towards the aliens thing.
Oh,
Well,
being abducted.
That is because there was places like Multnomah Falls, I believe, actually has a story which I visited a few times. And there was a hiker up there, and I can't remember what his name was. Everybody saw him kind of like go. He was on the falls, and then he walks up and he goes because there's a trail that goes up in the back mountain over the falls. Well, he did that, and they found like his shoes and his pants or something like that. But when they searched for him, the trail, because when they talk about how the trail ends, they get professional hunters. They can follow your trail. They get dogs out there. That's what I was saying. His trail stopped somewhere short, and they couldn't. There was no more tracks. There was nothing. It just ended. I apologize. Ignore that. It's currently 9 p.m.
Why is that on your phone?
That's my pill alarm. I gotta take my blood pressure meds. But there's several stories like that where the trail stops in places it shouldn't. It's just dead. Like their trail is perfect. They're finding it. The hounds are finding it.
And then it just dead ends.
And then it just stops.
Yeah.
Which means the person just dis-a-fucking-peared. And they don't know. There's no. It's not like they say like. It's not like they see signs of someone trying to cover tracks. It just stopped. And that's why they come up with the alien theory, is because where the hell did they go? There's only one way to go, and that's up. They didn't go down. They didn't go forward. They didn't go left or right.
You do hear about like park rangers and stuff. There's a lot of park ranger photographs of UFO type things over the years.
Like
weird lights in the sky,
flashing,
things like that.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon to hear. If you can get a park ranger that's retired and doesn't care anymore, that doesn't mind talking about what they shouldn't be talking about.
Stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, but then I was going to say, we were at Bigfoot days, and that one park ranger refused to tell me anything. He's like, I can't verify anything or talk about any of this stuff, man. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, of course you can. He's like, no, I really can't. I'm sorry. And he was like an older guy, and he wasn't trying to fuck with me, it didn't seem like, but he was like, if I knew, I couldn't tell you.
You know,
like,
wow.
Nice.
I think the stories that are these missing stories, the missing kids and stuff, they're really sad and they are freaky. But the scarier ones are actually the ones that'll really get you, are the ones where they're professionals. They're park rangers. They're people who've done this for like. There was a story of one. I can't remember if it was a man or a woman, but they had done it for like 30 years, and they knew the area like the back of their damn hand. Mm-hmm. They had found people before, missing people. They found bodies. They were they're professional. I can't remember his exact name, but one day he packed his stuff and he was going to go hiking. He just disappeared into the woods. He was gone. No one ever saw him again. But he had all of this knowledge.
Well, there was another ranger that was like that. He was a ranger for 21 years when he went missing. He had 21 years of experience, including doing the same kind of stuff, and he just vanished one day with a group of people, just gone in the thin air. So you hear about some of the stories. You hear about like the alien thing, or you'll hear about the Bigfoot thing. It's one thing that you'll hear a lot with little kids is big hairy guy grabbed me and fed me berries and took care of me and then left. And they usually talk about multiple of them. Or you'll hear about kids going into this place where they don't recognize it's a building they've never seen with strange lights and strange people they can't quite make out.
They don't look human.
Or
they just don't know what exactly they look like. They just know they're there.
Like
there was that story from I think the kid's name was Billy or something like that. He was out playing in the backfield. He was out in the woods and he disappeared, and they couldn't find him for a while. And he explained. He said, "I was with such and such. It was a family friend." He said, "I was in a cabin in the woods with this family friend, and he was taking care of me. He was protecting me." And he says to him, "What was it?" He said, "He put me out. He sent him outside of the cabin, and he says to him, "You need to follow this route, and do not deviate. Do not look back. Follow this route."
Yeah, the kid that wandered off and found that family friend.
Yeah, and he was just in the woods, in the cabin in the woods with his family friend. And the thing was, is like the family friend was out there. He's like, I don't fucking see him before. It's like I didn't see him.
Yeah,
But the kid walks the path, does what he was told, and his family finds him
like 3 days later.
3 days later, and it was like no time passed for him. He was saved, and he says, yeah, he took care of me, and I don't know if the family friend had deceased or if he was around. I don't remember exactly what happened.
No, the family friend was still around, but he was nowhere there. He was like at home. He was nowhere near them.
Yeah.
But he had run into some deceased relatives and stuff that were there that he thought were dead, and sure enough were, because he's a little kid, and like they fed him and took care of him, and his family friend ended up walking him back to.
Yeah, he walked him back on the trail.
Walked him back to the trail and said, "Hey, you need to go that way, okay? And don't turn around, just keep going." And then he was suddenly in a different part of the forest. It looked completely different.
Yeah, and then he heard his family and he ran to the sound.
Yeah, and this is like a while later.
It was back in the 20s or something like that. I think this was a story. It was a long time ago.
It was, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was he was playing with his friends or something like that, and he just disappeared. But there's stories like that, and then there's stories where you got groups of people going out, and then you have someone at the back of the line, people turn around, they're gone.
Well, yeah, and then you have the story like Fire in the Sky, where they're all hanging out and they all watch their friend get abducted by a UFO.
Well, they were lumberjacks. What do you expect them to do?
Well, they were all drinking. I'm sure they were lumberjacks. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
I think one story that was freaky was the one about they were filming a movie and they had a wilderness dude who was assisting them on it. He would do it, he was a wilderness guide or some shit like that. He would do it forever. And the director said, I wish I could remember all this information off the top of my head, but it's been a while since I heard this one. But he just one day on the set, he took off towards a mountainside and fucking jumped. Just started running for no reason, just cold running through the area. And the director sees him, or someone saw him, one of the film crew, someone saw him, and go look at the edge. And it's this big old cliff, and looks down, motherfucker had gone off the side and somehow still sprinting out into the woods and just fucking disappeared. They never saw him again.
There was one story of a guy that went to a place. He was a writer and he inherited a bookstore. He bought a bookstore from a guy that had wandered off in the woods and died or something. There was like a memorial to the guy. And he became obsessed with this dude and trying to find him. And then he ended up one day just going out in the woods and disappearing.
And I wonder a lot about this. This kind of comes to my theory about Bigfoot and stuff like that, because they have a lot of talk. The kids, they talk, especially kids, when they say they go missing in the woods and then say, "Oh, this man found me and helped me," or this big hairy ape or whatever found me. This big bear found me.
There was one where another girl was like a slightly younger girl was. She found a slightly younger girl on the trail when she was lost, and the younger girl guided her through the night over this really rocky cliffside where she could not have done it on her own. It was pitch black, but this little girl was helping her out this whole way, telling her where to go, and she said, "This is where I fell. I don't want you to do the same thing," and got her back to her family before disappearing, before letting the girl turn around.
Weird.
Yeah, so I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like that you hear, or you hear. I think this is mostly turned into be I think we figured out was mostly creepypastas with the staircases in the middle of the woods.
Oh, those are all
Oh.
yeah.
Pretty sure those are just a creepypasta.
One of the biggest ones they show the picture. They show this picture of the stairway in the middle of nowhere, and it's literally in a park somewhere in Oregon. It's a park attraction.
It's installation.
Yeah, it's just
And
an
they made it
installation in
look
the
all
park.
creepy.
Yeah, they just showed like, ooh, this it's the same staircase in every creepypasta. And it's literally just a fucking. It's just a.
Well,
it's
you
just
hear different stories of park rangers telling it, quote unquote, but it all stems from a creepypasta, which makes you think it's just bullshit.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and I mean,
it's a good idea.
A lot of that stuff is like like Slender Man,
and
some people think that's real.
Oh, I know.
No,
there's
it's
been
the
attempted. There's been
dumbest
a lot of
There's been
crime.
attempted murders and stuff.
There's
It's
been
like, really?
When my buddy was a cop, he's like, you would not believe how many journals I found of people that were writing about
Slender
being
Man.
involved with Slender Man in their life directly.
They
These
got to
are
be
older
hallucinating.
people.
I feel
These are
so
older
sorry
dudes
for Marble Hornets because they like
Such a
literally wrote
great
this
series.
great series. They did all this stuff. They were trying to
They
make a
didn't
movie.
come up with it though.
What was it? It was a German folk's tale that they based it off of.
No, it was based off of the guy that did the original Slenderman creepypasta came out when those two girls attacked the other
He's
one.
like,
He was like,
this
I am
is
so sorry.
fake.
Yes, the guy that came up with it came out and said the first
Yeah,
guy that wrote for Something Awful, the Slender Man story, that
The
Marble
traditional-
Hornets based it off of.
The Marble Hornets based it off a German folktale.
They based it off this guy's story of Slender Man. and then they added extra stuff to it.
Which was based off a German folktale.
Well, this guy came up with the story of Slender Man, and he was apologetic about the whole thing.
Slender Man was based off of.
And he said directly.
German folktale?
There was a folktale.
That's what the Marble Hornets guy said.
Oh.
The guy that originally came up with it never said that.
Oh.
He credited.
Oh, I guess you know.
It was for something awful. Something awful.
Marble Hornets made the original video of it. They made a series of it.
Yeah, on YouTube.
It was creepy. It's a great. It's a creepy and great ride.
Film. It's a very long.
It's just basically like it's essentially like the Blair Witch. It was just a fun thing they did.
But it was better than Blair Witch.
And
by
it was
a lot.
great. Oh yeah, they did great.
No, I think the whole Slenderman thing is really creative and it's a cool story, but it's not real.
Well, unless you
and
can
don't go out there and try to kill your friends because of it.
Unless you're in tulpas and thought forms and you make it real with your.
Or unless you're writing fan fiction.
Anyway, guys, so if you guys have, oh God, no Slenderman. If you want to hear Slenderman fan fiction you want Katie Cat to read on the show, email it to vanishinggates@gmail.com.
Not the Krampus again.
Because Katie Cat will do another reading of erotic fan fiction if you guys send a good story in. Anyway, if you guys have stories of missing 411 stuff, if you have more, what?
I was getting to my point.
What was your point?
I was getting to what I thought my theory of the Bigfoot thing was. See, my thought is this, is right. There's these guys who disappear into the woods. They've got extreme training, but they don't want to live in society anymore. You know, they don't need to. And I think what's happening is a lot of these kids that are going missing, or people who say that they found this random guy out there, or this Bigfoot monster found them, or something like that, or someone was helped by Bigfoot. I think what's really happening is they're delusional from, they're delirious from like being hungry and thirsty. And so you see shit, like your brain will mess with you. And I think these guys are actually out there. They're probably living off the land, and they have like literally probably have bear pelts or like deer skins, and so they look like they are something creature like, because they're wearing fur probably to keep safe in like the cold, because that place gets fucking cold. A lot of these places. And so what's happening is more likely they're actually running into wild men essentially who left society.
Well, there are
and
stories
are helping
of
people.
There are stories of feral humans along the Appalachian Trail.
But I don't think these guys are feral. I think these are actual like ex-guides or something like that who are just living out there.
That's pretty feral if you're not living in a house anymore.
It's not really feral. It's just camping permanently.
They're living. That's the definition of feral person. Person just living in the woods.
But my theory is essentially a lot of these people are just running into actual people who just decided to go live in the woods. And they're not dangerous.
The idea of feral people is more people grow up without our social constructs of society.
It's like the people that live on the islands that are cannibals.
Yeah, it's essentially that. It's just they live in these because the vastness.
Show up, they kill them.
Or the people that live on Epstein Island that hunt down people.
Oh yeah, those people.
Different Naked and Afraid series.
Different Naked and Afraid.
Andrew Schultz throwback there. Anyway, so if you guys have stories of the unexplained, the strange, true crime, the paranormal, any of that stuff, if you have missing 411 stories you want us to share, if you've encountered anything, email us. Hit us in the comments below if you watch this. And if you get all the way through, say, hi, Jack, in chat. That way we know, or in the comments, that way we know you got this far into the video. It helps us out a lot. And if you haven't told friends, tell your friends. If you run into us in public, feel free to say hi and come by. And we like to meet people.
Tell us your stories.
Tell us your stories. Anyway, I'm Jay, and these are...
I still smell like Axe, Jack.
Katie Cat.
And we will catch you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
And good nightmares.